All right, folks, we're back here for another Criminal Minds Evolution review recap here. Jumping into episode 8, Forget Me Nots, which I love this title. I'm late to the review here, but nonetheless, we got a review to get out for you all, for all our Criminal Mind fans out there. So yeah, my apologies, but nonetheless, yeah, we're here to jump into episode 8, Forget Me Nots, and this is a really bizarre episode here. I mean, this dude Elias, or Sicarius, whatever you want to call him, I mean, this is his means of what he thinks is a good tactic and measure of therapy or counseling. Yeah, let me go kidnap my real estate agent, have her pretend like she's my wife, and I'm sure this is going to help me resolve this issue of him having this internal conflict of who we know him to be, but also want to be a family man and wanting to come clean to her about it. At the same time, too, when you look on the other end of this, which I did love that we got this perspective as well, when we got to see Sydney, his wife, you know, how she's being affected by this. You know, she's thinking the relationship, the marriage is over. She's heartbroken here. So, you know, seeing how the effects, not only just the effects of his entire childhood and trauma amounts to this monster he's become now, you know, as the BAU is now very much hot on his trails with everything. I mean, collecting the information and understanding the profiling of his uncle to him, to now really coming in really close to targeting and getting their guy. And we have to say that, man, I love this ending. Dave, man, ask you a few questions was like the most amazing ending of this episode. But yeah, there's so much to talk about in this episode, so let's really get into it here now. But as I mentioned now, this man Elias, man, he's still in the beginning of the episode. Like Dave Rossi is absolutely pissed that he cannot really sort through this footage and get his face on cam. So like he's been very much still very undetectable, and that has done nothing but motivated Dave even more. He's pissed. He's pissed. You know, he's always pissed, but he's definitely pissed now. The piss where he's not even really like showing it, but when you know he's like really deep under his skin, like, oh, I'm gonna get this guy, which is why I love the ending, because he is right there where he needs to be. But anyway, like I said, Sicarius or Elias, whatever you want to call him, he's as it appears, he's just trying to move. He's thinking that a relocation would help his family. So, you know, he's like, his wife would really like a place in the mountains, and he's coming off as charming and showing the pictures of his daughters, and it's like, oh yeah, he's trying to turn a page on all this sinister stuff he's up to. But come on now, folks, come on now. Of course we know that any and everything he does is suspicious, and oh man, poor Ramona. It goes from her just showing a property, walking out the door, to the next thing you know, she is being bound to a chair and has no clue where she's at. And this is where their counseling / therapy session begins, because he wants to save his marriage, and it's up to her to be able to give him the sound advice, even though like she has her own personal things kind of going on as well too. I'm not gonna say this makes this just by any means, but like the way how this man thinks and was able to really kind of move these pieces of the puzzle together, it's like, how more demonic can he get here? Like he just knows what he's doing. So like, I guess this works. I guess this gives him a sense of like understanding and direction here, but still like, man, you're a sicko to like kidnap this poor lady, take her away from her family, and but yet because of her situation, she can provide some advice he may need. But as he mentioned, he's killed 61 people, and he just needs help to save his marriage here. Anyway here, while everyone's looking into the investigation of Cyrus here, because Sicarius is closed, yeah, everything is really coming close. For the viewers, we all know how close these things are connected, but now seeing that the BAU FBI are really starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together, it gets more and more interesting. And I really love like the developments in this episode, and as they start to discover and move the pieces together and say like, this is connected to this. This is with Second Street and all this other stuff. Like, I love the fact that, like, yes, they're going to get this guy. And I think that, like, while this has been overall, you know, the overalling arc of this season, which we got season 2, yes. I think still that, like, even though we're a little bit, like, as the viewers, we're able to, like, really put things together because of our perspective and how we're looking at the case, we're able to put together stuff faster. I think it's still so much more rewarding when we see our favorite characters actually start to get very hot on his trails here. Now, also hot on their trails, Garcia, because everyone is noticing a very different styling of her personality here. She's not coming off as she usually does. So folks are very much aware that something is going on, and as they mentioned, it looks like she may be getting laid at home. She is you know, even Dave saying, your intake of tea not usual here. Are you stressed out? Like, what's happening here? And it's just interesting as we see this glow up of her character after getting laid by you know that very hot and spicy scene from last week, mid credit little stinger there. So yeah, by the way, Derek, the character Derek, can't even think of his name right now, but he has his baby girl right now, actually. So congratulations to that. As you know, it's always good to you know, see these characters in real life doing really well as well too. But yeah, you know, when you talk about Tyler Green and Garcia, it's literally the relationship that we never knew we wanted, but like here we are. Like I can't help but to just feel like a win for her here. And again, as I mentioned, like Derek Morgan would be absolutely excited for her here. And I was talking about Shamar Moore, who just recently gave birth to a baby girl. So like I said, he got his baby girl. But I'm really digging this Tyler Green and Garcia relationship, because I love how she's just moving around much more different, radiating a lot more, not so work driven, but like actually having some balance in her life. Now she got this romance thrown in there and she's happy. That's what it matters. Meanwhile, JJ and Will, man, as Will is still, you know, battling cancer, but the kids are hot on their trails, overhearing conversations. Their oldest is Googling things. And just to kind of wrap this story arc together, while JJ sort of takes the route in trying to like protect her kids, you know, away from the brutal truth, they kind of come back around, and Will and JJ actually becomes brutally honest with them to kind of let them know what's happening. You know, he's overhearing about Sicarius, you know, asking about what an oncologist is. So like, you know, the fact that they're taking the more untraditional route and really bringing kids into the circle of like truth, it's cool. And I think like when you do that, I think it prevents things like Elias from happening, you know, who from everything he's kind of dealt with, as we learn more about, like I said, with as a childhood and his parents and his uncle and then all of that sorts of stuff. Like, you know, I think that like you can really set a kid in a better path forward by like being honest with them. So I love this route with them. But anyway, like I said, this role playing going on here is just wow, because you're kidnapping your realtor. And with so much heat in this town and so much heat with all these different cases, you know, and now you have a missing persons, it just doesn't help. And Ramona being kidnapped it's sad to say, but was kind of the best thing ever for the BAU, because now they're really on him, and because it fits the profile, and because like, you know, she did her due diligence and letting people know that she was going to do a showing, you know, it was able to kind of really wrap things around. But they still can't get him on camera, because my man is definitely the ultimate hacker when it comes down to surveillance. Anytime he's supposed to come out, they make sure that glitch get in there, and then it, you know, it doesn't happen. But yeah, even with him getting what he needed from her, this therapy session, this counseling session, he lets her go, as he says, just to give her to another monster here. And when he gives them to another monster, you know, this guy Arthur, who had been released recently, so like, you know, understanding that like when you talk about the victimology here, this makes sense for Arthur. So like, this just makes it hot, and the author even knows it's hot. So Arthur's like, listen, I'm out of here. Leaves Ramona there to survive for her own. Eventually gets saved. So like, it's, went from one monster to the next. And even when you have this sort of stare off between Arthur and Dave, mess with Dave, folks. Dave lets him know, like, you're a pawn. He's the puppet master. Sicarius Elias is the puppet master here, so you need to make a decision for yourself here. And David's trying to help, but instead he goes the wrong route with this. And yeah, so eventually, it looks like Dave is upset because Dave know he could absolutely use Arthur, but it is a very rewarding ending here because when we get to see Dave at the end, that's all I needed here. But it was interesting that Ramona, upon her, being brought in after she was rescued, saying that she did not see his face. I am interested. I mean, obviously, it seems like this is in protection of her family because she knows that he knows her entire family and pictures and everything. And anybody tell you they killed 61 people, I don't think an additional 4 to 5 is not a problem for him. And granted, he didn't kill Ramona, but he was going to have her be killed. So hard to kind of, weigh the pros and cons here and not understand that, like, this one decision could be the demise of your entire family here. But you got to think, like, she just was trying to protect the kid. But anyway, with Elias having a heart-to-heart with his wife, as I mentioned, which was a really, really heartbreaking moment because you can't do nothing but feel for her. And I thought that was going to be closing of the episode until the doorbell rung, and I was saying, oh, yes. And David Rossi is there and said, may I ask you a few questions? And that is our episode. Man, listen, this episode was crazy because, I think that with the Sicarius case being closed, and then they're still kind of being vigilantes, shall I say, in terms of like still going out to kind of work on this case at the same time, but also because of how much they know about the profiling of Sicarius and how Sicarius has influenced other crimes around. When you're talking about Arthur being connected to him, and when you're talking about Cyrus, and they're adding all that together, they're going to always be involved here. They're going to get a win even though they were shut down. But I can't help but to just root for, this entire frustration of Dave this entire season to finally get his win, because I mean, he opened up the episode, it's like, God, I'm gonna get that guy, and he's right on the trail as he has a face-to-face with his wife, and that's exactly where he needs to be. And as we mentioned sometime before, his uncle said, I think it was his uncle that said it, but family is going to be the reason that he gets caught up, and here we go. So yeah, folks, let me know in the comments your thoughts about tonight's episode. You probably already watched it, which is why I did full spoilers. This is episode 8 of season 16 of Criminal Minds Evolution, Forget Me Nots. I love that title. Jump in the comments, folks. Let me know your thoughts about it. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.